obviously it's one thing to expect the numbers to be different, which we were talking about a moment ago, than the approach.
Right.
And sometimes the numbers do not indicate what if the approach has been good or bad.
Right.
But do you feel like the goal of being patient, more selective at the plate, do you feel like you're seeing that? And joining us right now in studio, the one, the only, our Astros front office insider, Jeremy Booth. Jeremy, how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Last night's game, a long one.
Okay.
Astros ultimately prevail against the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah.
The run's still not coming.
Yeah.
We're a couple of weeks in.
Yeah. They're 5-6, right? Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
5-6. You know, it's a team that again we've talked about over the course of the year. I had it 85, 86 wins. I mean, I think you're probably in the same ballpark, right around there. You know, I don't see this as a 100-win team. I don't see this as a breakaway AL West winning team. I don't see it. I see that as kind of a reboot year. What I'm seeing as a club is not surprising. It's just not. It's not an offensive juggernaut. It's going to be good, but it's not going to be great. It's going to be enough. The encouraging signs are coming from some of the adjustments, right? We're seeing adjustments and some progress. And Christian Walker had some interesting comments about his swing and plate discipline and pitch selection and swing decisions, is all the stuff that we say. Like Cam Smith, some adjustments, things that are going to happen. You have to allow these things to play out. The pitching, however, it's you're going to have some nights like Arrighetti. You're going to have some other nights like Arrighetti. You're going to have some things that are going to work and some things that aren't. So Hunter Brown's had a couple good starts, right? I mean, Blanco is it's year 2 for him, so anything he does is just about steadying the ship. And, the pitching's going to keep him in the ballpark. We'll see what happens after that.
Big news last night was Cam Smith's triple. It's an RBI triple. So to open things up, and we talked about him last week, he has 3 hits in his first 21 at-bats.
Yeah.
He got his first RBI last night. He got his first extra base hit as well last night. Drives it down the left field line, hustles all the way over to third base. Obviously, you have come in and said, temper your expectations with Cam Smith. But what does a moment like this do for him? I mean, a hit like that on the road in a semi-hostile crowd, I feel like that boosts your confidence. Does that ultimately matter, though? Is this just like a one-moment kind of deal?
So are we talking about Seattle, a place that you and I both know well, as semi-hostile?
It's semi-hostile. Well, it was kind of empty last night. Except for when Altuve was at the plate, it felt like a largely empty ballpark. Hit me. You're holding back on me, Jeremy.
As far as Seattle is concerned, I always have loved Seattle. I love the city. I think they deserve a winner. There's a lot of good things about that spot. It's way out in the middle of nowhere compared to the rest of the country. As far as like baseball besides the West Coast. But man, it's a good spot. That said, the fans are not semi-hostile. Okay, they are hostile. They are every bit of hostile because they're tired of it.
The energy for Altuve last night was loud.
Yeah, they are tired of the situation that Mariners ownership has put them in, and for that matter, Seahawks ownership, and for that matter, the Sounders, right? Sounders,
right?
Kraken.
The Sounders are usually good. Kraken are usually good, but they don't have a basketball team because it was stolen from them by the people that own Starbucks.
Right, and so, but even still, like, who's the Sounders? Do you know anything about the Sounders are doing? No,
but I don't know. But we don't really.
That's my point. So, the Mariners have never won, and so they're hostile now. I don't see anything that Cam Smith does, was the question, is going to build confidence because he's learning how to do this. His head's got to be swimming after 32 games? 32 games in minor leagues? His head's got to be swimming as far as getting to the big leagues and what he has to do here. So I look at what happens in Seattle in a hostile environment, empty because they ain't hitting, but hostile environment, and you still have to realize he's performing in the West. He's still in the big leagues. He's doing it in a tough hitter's park. We know that. It's a confidence builder. Is it the end of the world? Is it a new beginning? No, it's another day in the life of a major league player who's learning how to do it.
ESPN Houston baseball front office insider Jeremy Booth with us in studio. It's the Paul Gallant Show, ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. There's going to be a lot of Cam Smith talk to open up the year. We're probably both going to be sick of it in like 2 to 3 weeks if you're not already sick of it. But it has been noteworthy that this guy, who they brought up to be their right fielder, has gotten a couple of days off. How do you handle a young player? Because obviously, he cut the line being in the major leagues at this point. But the only way he's going to get better is if he continues to play.
You look for signs of quality at bats, not numbers, right? If he hits 350 with 75 home runs, it doesn't matter. Look at Jeremy Pena the first year. Great year, but we saw more of what Pena is as time has gone on, right? Cam Smith needs to have quality at bats. He needs to know that he's in a better spot. He needs to have an adjustment curve. I mean, he was swinging and missing quite a bit there for a minute, 50% strikeout rate at one point, right? I mean, so he's only got 21 at bats, but he's also got time that he's got to grow into this to allow himself plenty of opportunity to develop here. And developing here in a major league city, in a major league club on a contender isn't always the easiest thing to do. That's a very tough sometimes assignment. And one of the guys that moved very quick through the minor leagues that I played with was a guy named J.D. Drew. Okay. And J.D. Drew got to the big leagues and he was mentally ready to handle it. It was still extremely fast. Like he was drafted in 98 and he signed with the Cardinals. I was in the big leagues for Sosa McGuire when McGuire hit his 61st, you know what I mean? Whatever it was. So that's fast. Now it was smart by the Cardinals to bring him up. JD never went back. Never really went back. He understood how to play there. He understood how to control himself. And he still had a couple hundred, 500 professional bats before that. I don't know if the Cam has had that opportunity. I think we'll have to relax on what he's doing here and just let him play. As long as he's having good at-bats, whatever the results are is what they are.
As a team, do you like the at-bats they're getting? To this point, they have 110 strikeouts. Obviously, not everyone's played the same amount of games, but the only teams that have more strikeouts than the Astros outside of the Colorado Rockies are teams who have played more games than the Astros. We knew going into this year, per Joe Espada, per Dana Brown, that being more patient at the plate was going to be a priority, and we were hoping to see that. And I'm curious as to what you've seen, because to this point, a lot of guys have struck out a lot. It's not just Cam Smith in 10 of 21 at-bats. It's also, we're talking about Christian Walker, who you mentioned made some adjustments. He's got 17 strikeouts in 45 at-bats. Jordan struck out 12 times. Yainer Diaz has struck out about a third of his at-bats. Obviously, it's one thing to expect the numbers to be different, which we were talking about a moment ago, than the approach.
Right.
And sometimes the numbers do not indicate if the approach has been good or bad.
Right.
But do you feel like the goal of being patient, more selective at the plate, do you feel like you're seeing that?
I feel like I'm seeing that in spots.
Okay.
I don't think I'm seeing that as a whole. I know that's an organizational decision on how they want to approach the offense, right? So if guys aren't naturally patient hitters, or they're ambush hitters, whatever type of hitter they are the most comfortable being, putting in a blanket philosophy like that becomes tough. If you put in a philosophy like that, you have to get personnel that's going to execute the philosophy, because that's not a best player available philosophy. That's a build innings, take pitches, hit the ball the other way, 3-run home run philosophy, right? It's been around forever, but you have the right personnel. This personnel should be able to do it as long as their mindset is there. And if the at-bats are just kind of in the middle, this is going to get tough, because I actually like the guy. This is where Alex Cintron's got to step up and figure out if he's going to be hitting coach or not. Now, he's done it in the past with very good hitters. And so it's really hard to understand unless you've been down there in the trenches with Alex and A.J. Hinch and Joe Espada and obviously Dusty Baker and the lineage of managers, what Alex has done. Not good, not bad, and otherwise. It's hard to know because you're not in there, right? And those guys that have hit, I would argue, and I'm sure Alex would too, as a former big leaguer, and a good one, by the way, okay, that those guys can hit with anybody as a hitting coach. I could be their hitting coach. You could be their hitting coach. Joe George could be their hitting coach. Hey, man, see ball, swing hard. It's basically how, that these guys are going to go hit, okay? Where he's got to really coach now is with guys that aren't that pedigree. He's got to get the best out of Pena. He's got to get the best out of Diaz. He's got to get the best out of Smith. He's got to figure out what he's going to do with Rogers. So that's what a hitting coach has to do. It's not Alvarez who, hey, man, your hand's a little bit low. Let's make sure we watch video. Or Altuve who, hey, you're a Hall of Famer. Here's an ad. No. It is the other guys. It's Jake Myers. Why is Jake Myers such an automatic out? Figure that part out. Why is Chas McCormick really a part-time guy? Right, who's maybe a 45 on a scouting skill, a second division regular on a championship winning team in his best year. Why is that happening? Well, is that talent? Were they drafted there? How do you move through that type of scenario as a hitting coach? That's not just a hitting coach job. That's an assistant hitting coach job too. And especially if you put in some kind of an organizational approach that requires patience, requires taking pitches, doesn't necessarily mean swinging in certain areas or swinging at the fastball, or even the breaking ball. You have a certain approach that has to do with numbers of pitches. That's an Alex Cintron job.